Hello, everyone. My name's Austin. I'm one of the three members of Obscure Reference, and I want to do a quick intro to this video because it's going to be a little bit of a different kind of review. We're going to give you all of our thoughts from when we reacted to the trailer on our show, Fingering the Pulse, to our first impressions after we played a couple of hours of the game, and then our final review after we beat the final boss, did all of that. We wanted to give you guys the full experience of our thoughts from beginning to end. Hope you enjoy.
Okay,
There we go. Awesome.
There we go.
All right.
We have no choice. The root will destroy everything
This way.
for all
You two do a better job.
time.
This is Dark Souls with guns.
No turning back after this. You sure?
This gets me.
I don't know if you guys will get this reference, but it reminds me of the Poison Ivy fight from Arkham Asylum.
That's the latest Arkham game I've played. I don't remember the Poison Ivy fight very well.
That's
Oh,
the very first of the Batman games.
Yeah,
that's
not like I said,
definitely.
it was the one I played the most recently.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
We should buy that game and then also play that game after we buy it.
I agree. That game looks
I
like it's
agree.
going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
And
That looks like
I'm
if
very
Borderlands and Dark Souls were one and the same.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's like the vibe of Bloodborne, but with guns.
And sci-fi. Yeah, I
Yeah,
heard
we're gonna
a
have
lot
to
of
make a
good
list
things
of all
about
the
first
ones we
one.
actually really want to get to like right away because that one's coming out soon.
Yeah,
Oh,
we got
shit.
a little over a month.
25th.
Yeah,
25th, yeah.
that
Just
works
Mark
out.
that
little
one
It's
on
over.
the
like
calendar.
there's not a whole lot of stuff coming out July, so like that's an easy, like I could probably make that happen, you know.
I think we're gonna get that one.
All right.
Yeah, all in all, that
You
one
said
looks
that
fucking
earlier.
sweet.
No,
Mhm.
yeah, no, I'm into that. I heard good things about the first one. Never got into it, even though it was on Game Pass. I don't think it is anymore.
What about that
I-
was age restricted?
That's a great question. I don't know. The
Well,
horror
Like, there were
elements,
no
I'm not really
boobly
sure.
dooblies. There were no
Boobly-dooblies.
cussing words.
No
There was
cussing
as
words.
many guns as Pikachu.
A lot of guns.
Like, what's up? Why was that one age restricted?
Maybe
What's
it was
going
the
on?
sorcery. It was the
Oh,
sorcery
yep,
because
Harry Potter
the
can't be
religious
trusted.
institutions were like, no.
No fun for you.
What we
all
didn't
agreed.
see was the YouTube channel that had that video up that was age restricted was Father Frank of the Catholic Church. I see you, Frank.
Who?
You don't want to meet him.
No, you don't. You don't want to be Father Frank. All
He
right,
keeps getting moved around from place to place.
and not for the right reasons.
No.
None of the right reasons, honestly. A lot of the bad ones.
Okay.
All right, we're moving on.
What are our initial thoughts? We didn't get to do initial thoughts last time. Let's go ahead and take a few to go over that. So initially, game's not perfect. Game definitely has its issues. I've never played anything similar to Dark Souls besides the first 10 minutes of Dark Souls. I think I've made progress as a player. the gameplay's simple enough to understand. I don't. Oh crap! I triggered the fight. I don't fully understand how to use my ability or what it does. But yeah, all in all, it's like Diablo meets Dark Souls, and I'm having a fun time. Solid 7.5 out of 10, maybe 8 out of 10.
I think this game suffers from a similar problem to games where it's like they include features because they think that they have to, but it doesn't actually have a big enough effect on the game because they don't exactly know what they want to do with it.
Can you
'Cause
elaborate on that?
there's so many features in this game that if you just cut them down and combine some of them, it would be streamlined and much easier to understand at all of the different things that are going on. So like we have the modifiers to our gun, we have the modifiers to our class, which you can then switch your class, but also you have the other class. So like you're and then you've got gun traits, but you've also got traits for your person, but you've also got clothing traits, which we haven't even gotten into yet. I haven't even gotten a second piece of clothing, but like they have armor and stats, and then we've got amulets as well as the relic, which we've gotten a bunch of amulets, but we haven't gotten a secondary relic outside of the fragments, which I don't know what to do with. It feels like we could have gone with fewer of them. Like if we just had a look and no stats on our clothes, would you have felt any differently about the game? I don't think so. And like
No,
they
I
don't
think
drop
you're right there.
anything for us. So like unless we're just missing it where it all comes in, but like there's so few actual drops, but we have all of the slots for all of the drops because we've got 2 guns, a melee weapon, 4 clothing pieces. We've got amulets, we've got relics, we've got the weird blue one. I don't know what that one's called.
You know, I
just
gotta
feels like
agree.
they could
Like,
slim
they're
some
not
of them.
dropping guns, they're not dropping clothing, they're not dropping things besides rings and amulets. So it is a little, I want to say counterintuitive in that regard. It's just like they've included so much of this, you're right, and then also kind of restrict your ability to progress in it. Because, I don't know how long we've been here, at least like 4 or 5 hours at this point. And we just have no intention of going back to town anytime soon, as far as I'm aware.
What? I mean, we haven't hit the first story beat that would presumably get us to go back there. Like if we found.
Yeah, I thought this
Clementine or
was going to
whatever.
be like you run into the dungeon, you fight the boss, you get Clementine, you go home. But this has been like 5 dungeons, 2 bosses who I know nothing about. I don't necessarily think this detracts from the gameplay, but story-wise, I have no idea what's happening.
Honestly, that seems more like the game's trying to be like Dark Souls because that game doesn't hold your hand with the story either. I think this one does a great deal more than what Dark Souls and Bloodborne or those kind of games do. Just because like there's actually like NPCs and dialogue, and they're actually giving you like, hey, go do this. But like then we run into a boss and we have no idea what he's doing there, what his story is, and I'm sure that story is somewhere. We just don't know where. But I don't know. My general impressions right now are it's fine. It's a good game. I'm having a lot of fun with it with friends. Um, this isn't even gonna crack like my top game of the year list. Like this is just a fun time to have with friends, but it's not a bad game by any stretch. It's quite good, honestly. But
Yeah, I think it's well put
it's
together. This just is not my forte style of gameplay. I'm liking the branching out and the actually having to game and not just like, Minecraft doesn't require too much of me. It's nice to have a game that's actually making me try to play.
mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I do think this game gains something with the boss encounters. Like that's clearly the best part of the game is when
Yep.
you're boss fighting and
Mhm.
you have to learn what to do. I do think there's a potential. Like we had a hard time with the first one, and then it got easier the second one, and then we had the root one, which was pretty easy. That like there's a knowledge curve, but it's not enough to be like Dark Souls where you have to go into every boss fight and learn a bunch of new stuff. Because I don't
Hmm.
think that the controls and systems don't feel as tight in this game as they do in like Dark Souls
Oh yeah.
or something like that, where you can get really technical with boss mechanics. There was waves right in the like water boss, but there wasn't really waves. There was a literal wave in the second boss, but there wasn't waves in terms of like change in what happens when you get to certain points. So
I
they're a
mean,
little
aside
bit
from the eye
shorter of
flying
boss
out, but
fights.
that really just made a moving target, is all.
That happened like when they were at 70%, 80% health anyway, so it was
Yeah.
like a very
Yeah.
short phase one. If you
So
could
they're
even call
clear.
it phase
No.
one.
Yeah, they're
They've
clearly
definitely
taking
they've got the
a
boss
middle
fights
road
nailed.
between. Yeah, it's taking a middle road between Dark Souls and like a standard co-op looter
And
shooter type situation,
as challenging
which
as
I think
they
is
are,
good.
I am
But
really loving that, it's not just here's the boss, kill it, move on. Like, they're taking us 4 or 5 attempts apiece. And I
Yeah,
guess in fairness, we are playing on a difficulty up, and when you calculate or factor in our skill levels, like I should really not be able to perform super well. I don't think. So maybe this game's actually easier than we thought. I wonder if it'd still be a challenge on the base difficulty for new players.
it probably would be. I don't know. I think we're still early in the game, so boss design's going to be fairly straightforward. I think as we get further deeper in, we might see that like harder stuff come up and have actual
I'd be
phases.
disappointed if we didn't.
Uh, but yeah, that's one of my favorite things about going into a Dark Souls boss is learning the mechanics, going through the different phases and stuff. And we didn't necessarily get all of that with these bosses, but like getting into that second boss with the floating ring eye thing, and we're all just like, what is happening? But like in step 4 or 5, we had it down lock, and we all made it through that encounter like very quickly. And once we figured out what we were doing, it's like that's the kind of high that you chase when you play these kinds of games. So yeah, I do think the boss encounters are the highlight for me so far.
Yeah, I am loving just also the maps and you run around the corner and you find a new class of enemy you have to figure out, or I especially love it when like the quote unquote elite enemies show up and they're significantly tougher, bigger, they have more unique attacks than just shooting at you. Uh I could deal with just a little less enemy generation. It feels like every 10 feet we're in another fight. And I get it. It's it makes the game challenging, really makes progression hard. But I don't know. I feel like I could deal with just a little more free moving space where I don't have to be worried about should I have reloaded all my guns before taking these 6 more steps.
yeah, I think part of the thing is when you get a game like this, half of the difficult like there's only so many sets of mechanics. Part of the difficulty ends up being the way you can find space. And so that's part of how like as a game design you create some more difficulty. So I think they're doing it on purpose, even though they didn't directly design any individual area because it's procedurally generated. But the way that they have that set up is seemingly a lot like when you don't have flying ones, it's a lot of corridor areas with small rooms where you have to try and maneuver in that little bit of space increases the difficulty level.
And then I feel like that's a perfect segue to bring up like the floating world, the jumping platforms, and your ability to just fall off and have to respawn all the enemies on the map to recover from that. Again, I get that the game's supposed to be challenging, but Patrick took an accidental turn and we just had to summon everything back to life because of it. I'd appreciate
Yeah.
some kind of safe wall, or at least less jumping opportunities. That one map was just chock full of them. This map seems to have its fair share.
I mean, granted, that's the similar. It's I honestly don't want there to be safety walls like that. As especially on maps that are open like this one. Like that seems
Yeah.
like takes away from that. But
See, and if that's
uh,
the case, I could at least deal with more frequent checkpoints, so I don't have to go back to the beginning of the map and spawn everything again and go all the way back through it to get to where we were.
yeah, and then that almost kind of defeats the purpose because the whole point of the game is to get better. Like that
Yeah,
first time when we found that side route, we barely got past the first encounter. No, we didn't get past the first
we
encounter.
didn't. Took us like 2, 3
Uh,
attempts.
yeah, and
And I get that. I
by
want
like
to improve, but I just every like you died, and now we have to do this entire map over because one of us had an accident, and not even like you weren't good at the game. You went left when you shouldn't have, is all it was. And I'm not saying I went
okay,
checkpoints every 10 feet, but instead of two on the maps like we've been seeing, maybe 3, 4, spread them out a bit. Still make
yeah,
them inconvenient, but just more accessible.
I think part of what makes that tricky is these are procedurally generated and they're not big enough that they warrant more than two checkpoints. So you run
That
into that.
Other map we were on, the other side dungeon definitely warranted more than two.
I don't know. We got around that pretty quickly. That seemed about right for that map, honestly.
I don't know. I could have done with 3 there.
Sounds like you
Yeah.
want a baby game for
No.
babies, though. That's what I'm
All in
hearing.
all, I'm definitely having a fun time playing this. Uh, Loving the actual gameplay. Don't know what's going on with the story. I think Austin's points are valid about, I've got to customize my weapon, my gear, my ability, my class, my subclass. Like, there's a little too much customization going on.
and
But,
it's not like builds, right? Like
yeah,
I mean, John, you won't really know that much. Like,
I
but
know what a
John,
fucking build
Patrick,
is.
you'll know. No, but I'm saying like
Oh.
this is based on a Dark Souls game, and in Dark Souls, like you very specifically choose a build that you want to go for, and build to that over time, and so you build so your weapon choice and your armor choice and then your skill choices all are meant to be cohesive in a way towards whatever you want to do, and it doesn't feel like that's really necessary in this game.
Yeah.
Like
It's
'cause it's
definitely
not
kind
that
of weird
difficult,
that
whereas,
we're
like, you
all
could cut
well
some of those
equipped
out.
enough. Yeah, like the fact that it gave us all the crossbow and the crossbow's a viable weapon for all of us really just kind of diminishes the line between classes. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, in Borderlands, you can use whatever gun you want, but Zero is meant to be the sniper. Mordecai's the sniper. Axton's got assault right. Like, everybody's got the thing they're supposed to specialize in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought Patrick being the gunslinger might get, like, I don't know, pistols and snipers or something, but I think he's using a crossbow and a shotgun.
Pistol.
Pistol?
My skills are all around, like, dealing damage and giving, like, buffs. I think there's something about me getting, like, ammo, too, but I don't know. All of my passives have to do with, like, shooting. So in that sense, it's in line with everything.
Still, it doesn't. That just applies to all guns. I don't know. I could deal with a bit more differentiation between the class and a better understanding of how to use my ability. I get that I click the bumpers and then my dog heals, but it says to the nearest targeted location, but he just does it wherever he's standing. And when he draws taunt, I don't know. It just, again, seems to not change the fact that he's already just fighting him anyway.
Then their focus is diverted to the dog. Not
Well, yeah, but I've been like watching for that to see how well it works, and it doesn't seem to change much of what's going on. They're already usually pretty focused on him when he's in combat.
Well, that seems less like an issue with your character's ability and more so with the enemy AI, which is not great either.
Yeah.
So you guys say you have issues with the AI. I really haven't noticed that yet. And the occasional one runs past you or like forgets to fight. I can write that off. That happens sometimes. But I haven't even seen them be stupid about it yet.
I mean, it's not glaring for me. I'm just like, I play a game like this that's framed the way this game is, and I can't help but think of Dark Souls where some of those enemies will parry you, and I have a hard time parrying myself, so that's kind of what I'm comparing this to.
I
So in
mean,
that
that's fair
sense,
because that's definitely the vibe they're going for.
mhm.
Yeah, I didn't realize how well their AI were constructed,
For
or
sure.
AI, their NPCs.
And it's not like flawless over there either, but I
Yeah.
don't know. There's a lot of polish to those games that's not here, and that's fine. But I can't help but compare.
General thoughts out of 10, how are we feeling?
Um, well, yeah. Last time we had a brief discussion, I was thinking maybe an eight. I might stay at an eight, but I might go down to like a 7.52. Like this is definitely a good time if you like these kind of games. It's worth checking out. But if I'm looking for like a Dark Souls experience, I think I'd rather stick with that. But that being said, the boss encounters I think were worth the price of admission. If you have like a group of friends to play with, even more so.
You know, I'm kind of same boat, but at the same time opposite. Yesterday I was definitely at a 7 where like this game happened and it was enjoyable, but I'm definitely more into it today. I think I'm also going to be giving it somewhere between a 7.5 and an 8. Austin, you got a little something.
I see that. I got two
I'm
votes
in
on this.
trouble.
It's it's not perfect. It's not necessarily my style. I've always had an interest in Dark Souls, but not a huge fan of single player games in general, especially ones that are so freaking hard. So it's nice to be able to have a Dark Souls esque experience with a group of friends.
Mhm.
And overall enjoyable. Not perfect, not my favorite, but I'm having a good time. 7.5, 8 out of 10.
I don't
Now
do
here comes
rankings,
Austin with the
but
3.
I don't do rankings like that. I don't give them numbers, but I'm enjoying it for the most part. I'm looking forward to whenever we go to the next world. I would like a bit of a change of scenery
I would
after
too.
we've faced three bosses here. I'm hoping there's one more, and then we've get the first bit. We probably go back to the place and then move on to the next world and see what's going on there. Get a fresh feel.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm curious to see what lies ahead of us. I feel like we're just scratching the surface, as it were.
See, I didn't even realize we were gonna go to other worlds. I figured we'd go to different, biomes for sure.
Well, yeah, I don't
But
know if that world is the like
okay, so you
literal
just mean
world,
like
but
environments.
you like you hit the crystal thing and you go somewhere else. Like I
Yeah.
know there's one that's like robot world.
Oh yeah, no, that's the one
Can't
they
wait
showed
For
with that one
Robot
boss.
World. But yeah, definitely excited to see how far we go and how hard the game gets. Okay, so overall thoughts on the game. As
It's
much as
okay.
it's not my style game. Like the gameplay is actually pretty good, and I will fully admit, playing with friends, this was pretty enjoyable.
I
Yeah,
don't think you
I
go ahead.
felt like for the most part it was kind of exactly what we thought it was from the beginning.
Hmm.
The gameplay itself is pretty fun. There's a lot of systems that exist for basically no reason.
Okay, yeah, you
Which
know what?
weren't
Yeah.
necessary. But my biggest contention really is just that final boss fight felt like the difficulty level went from like a 6 to a 12, like
It
with
really
the
did.
drop of a dime. It didn't feel like there was a gradual build. It and so it made that boss just particularly hard, and I don't know, in not a fun way, like not a
Yeah,
natural kind of
it
progression
really
way.
did spike up.
But it felt good to beat it, and I think fun environments, gunplay was good. Just some excess to the game that was not necessary.
Yeah, I enjoyed it for the most part. I think it is a solid 7 out of 10 to me. If I had to give it a rating, I think there's enough keeping it that holds it back. I think graphically it's pretty. It looks really good. Gameplay, it felt a little disjointed here and there. I think the gunplay overall felt fine though. Um, there was a lot to keep track of, and I don't know if it necessarily. It looks like there's a lot that you can do in this game, a la Borderlands, where you can make a build off of whatever skills you're using, and that I like that part. I'm not going to dive into it because this game didn't grab me that much, but boss designs were really cool. I think that was the main draw for me for this game is just figuring out what the next boss was and figuring out how to beat that. Then the
Yeah.
biggest part out of all of it really was playing with the homies. Um, I love a good Soulsborne game. I love the difficulty in those games, but like unless you're playing with mods, it's just you typically. So being able to play a game that is designed for multiple people, is designed with big bosses like Dark Souls like bosses, and you can play with your homies, I think it was a lot of fun. And that adds
Hmm.
a level to it that, Dark Souls doesn't necessarily have. So I appreciate that aspect.
Yeah, I definitely
Story's
I.
a bunch of
Oh
nonsense though.
yeah, no story I couldn't follow at all.
Didn't pay attention.
I think
Yeah.
I'll give this game 8 out of 10. I did enjoy it as my first Souls like. A couple of things, Austin's not wrong. There was so little yet also too much going on at the same time. Like I expected to be able to customize armor a bit more. I get that each of the classes had their own set, and that's fine. But I expected more of that. Wider variety on guns. I really just kind of had the same guns for the vast majority of this, and melee almost never came up. But then at the same time, you got the mods, you got the augmentations, you got the relics and the fragments and the different concoctions that we didn't even know about till a good chunk of the way through the game. I didn't feel like using my ability was too natural. I'm not fully sure what it did. I mean, obviously, Austin's really came in clutch there. Mine was just kind of confusingly worded, I think. But honestly, my guns felt like they had a more usable ability than any of my actual class did. But like
I
you
will
said,
I
it's
almost
good. What?
I almost wish like they would have, because like part of the problem too is like the class system, other than having the first handful, like it doesn't let you know that you can like do other ones unless you
Mhm.
just figure it out.
Yeah.
If they would have cut down on the systems and made it like, obviously the potion type one would have to stay, but if you went no, like you only had one gun, but you could still modify the guns. Like each class had a set of two guns, and then
Mhm.
you could modify them. Then you had armor modification, plus you made the class. Like if you had just those four pieces, I feel like you have a really strong. It's still
Mhm.
customizable, but not a ridiculous amount. And you focus on the best parts, which are like the gunplay, the classes, and
Right.
then all focused on fighting the boss.
So what you're saying is, I forget what your class's name was. The marksman.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So what you're kind of suggesting, from what I'm hearing, is like marksman gets a sniper rifle, and maybe you want to be a rapid fire sniper. Maybe you want better zoom. Maybe you want faster reload, and you
Yeah.
can just kind of modify your sniper character from there. And secondary, all that. No, that sounds like a really good class system actually. Gotta love class systems. Who doesn't?
I will say too, on your points, John, of not using melee, and not using a lot of the stuff, or not knowing really what stuff we should be using. I think
Mm-hmm.
melee specifically, there's a class built all around that, and there's other classes
Fair.
built that are based off
What do
of
you
armor
do?
scaling.
What do you do
Uh,
in that final battle as a melee? Like, is it actually possible?
You just
don't know.
wait. It's
really
gotta
don't
be
know.
possible.
It feels like that's an like if you're gonna have a class like, especially like they built a melee class into the game, every boss should be beatable with that class.
With
And
any
it
class,
feels
yeah.
like that's basically not possible unless there's some like version where it's like you basically get like a swing, like like a melee swing, but it creates like a blast or something
Mhm.
that's essentially a bullet. Like otherwise, it feels like you could never, unless.
Okay,
No, it just doesn't feel like you could do it. It doesn't feel
see,
like
you're
that's
not
a
wrong, but I had melee
class.
weapons that did do a blast if you like did the right combo or stepped back then attacked. And I tried getting those off in combat. It's so hard to just like launch that mid combat. I could do it on the training dummies easy, but by the time I'm doing it in combat, I'm just going to shoot the guys anyway, or I'm already swarmed.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But all in all, I
do
don't want to
feel-
sound like I'm shitting on the game. Like it has its flaws, but I
It was still
did
fun.
enjoy playing
Yeah.
with you guys a lot.
a lot of fun. I don't think we explored nearly enough of it, and honestly, I don't feel like I need to go back and explore more. And I think that says all we need to say. All I need to
Yep.
say about it,
Yeah.
at least. So
The,
yeah,
I'm gonna add in the one thing I like that Borderlands did over this. When you get to Sanctuary in Borderlands, You have to go around, meet all the characters, so you know where the gun store is, so you know where the like all the shops are, all the different characters you can interact with and talk to and buy whatever from. This one really just kind of was like, here's the town. You're ready to go? Like it didn't let you know, like you said, you could buy any of the new classes. It didn't let you know that you could go get medical equipment or grenades or concoctions. It kind of left it up to you to explore that and didn't let you know these are aspects of the game you could be including.
Yeah, in defense of that though,
Oh, there
it is
goes
a
Austin.
Soulsborne. It is like a Soulsborne in that way. You don't
Oh,
necessarily
there's
know
Austin.
which NPCs give you what unless you go and talk to them. So it kind of encourages you to explore more. I think in
Yeah,
a game like this that relies on its systems a lot, I think maybe it should do a better job of explaining that. It doesn't necessarily need to hold your hand like Borderlands does.
I like the hold
Yeah, I was
hand.
gonna say for to give this game credit for the genre that it comes from, that's pretty common.
Okay,
Like,
that's fair. I
as
don't
a
know the
game,
genre.
as a game that's built around the difficulty, it's really not something that's gonna take your hand in any way.
Yeah.
So I guess
Fair.
now you can argue whether or not that's a good system or not.
Yeah.
Just different people, different things.
Mhm.
But it definitely fits the genre, so I'm not going to give it too hard of a time for that.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair. I didn't realize that it was pretty common. Maybe that's why I've never gotten into Dark Souls or Diablo or anything, is I don't have enough hand-holding going on. Can someone make the hand-hold mod for me?
I can hold your hand. Listen. I'll be
So
your
let
Sherpa.
me
Say the
hold
word.
your hands.
Tell me when you want to jump into Lord Room. Tell me when you want to go to fucking enter Londo. All right. I'll be your Sherpa.
Probably
I'll-
never. There's so much
I'll
on our
be
plate, man. If we ever make it out to Wakanda, we can play those games for sure.
Just saying. Just say the word.
Alejandro, whatever. Anyway, guys, so those are our complete thoughts on, I was going to say Redfall, on Remnant 2.
We don't-
Definitely a better game than
Again,
Yes.
overall, pretty okay game, almost as good as Redfall. You know, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad.